My name is Emily, and I never thought I'd witness something so vile coming from my own family. That afternoon was supposed to be nothing more than a cheerful backyard barbecue. The sun was bright, laughter filled the air, and everyone seemed happy. I had brought my 7-year-old daughter, Lily, who couldn't wait to play with her cousins. She was running around, giggling, making silly little noises the way children do. It was innocent, harmless. But then it happened. A moment so cruel it still makes my stomach turn. Lily was laughing near the picnic table, her excitement spilling out as she tried to tell her grandpa about a game she'd learned. Before she could even finish her words, my brother Ryan, standing with a drink in hand, turned on her with a look of disgust. Slap. It was so loud, everyone froze. Lily staggered, clutching her cheek, tears immediately pouring down her tiny face. Ryan sneered, "Shut up, you're being too loud." My breath caught in my throat. I was paralyzed. My own brother had just slapped my daughter, in front of everyone. I looked around, expecting outrage, expecting someone to defend Lily. But what I saw instead made me feel like I was about to vomit. My parents, my mother and father, they laughed. They actually laughed. They chuckled as if Lily had been scolded for breaking a rule. Their faces showed not even a sliver of concern, no horror, nothing. Like they thought she deserved it. My heart pounded against my ribs, wild and angry. I wanted to scream, to grab Ryan and tear him apart. But something inside me, the part of me that had been quiet and obedient my entire life, froze. Instead, I knelt down beside Lily, brushing her tears away as gently as I could. I whispered to her, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here." But deep down, I was burning with rage. My own brother, my own parents, laughing while my child was hit. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my hands from shaking. My husband, standing behind me, put a hand on my shoulder. I could feel him silently pleading, "Don't cause a scene." But something had already snapped inside me. A deep, sharp promise I'd never made before. They will regret this. If you love powerful stories about justice and revenge, don't forget to subscribe and follow this channel for more. Your support helps me share these true emotional stories. The rest of the afternoon felt like a bad dream. Ryan acted like nothing happened, stuffing his mouth with barbecue ribs. My parents went on laughing with the guests, ignoring Lily completely. I couldn't eat. I couldn't speak. Every time I looked at Lily, my heart broke all over again. She kept one hand on her cheek, her eyes wide, not understanding why her family had betrayed her. And that was what crushed me the most. That a 7-year-old would already have to learn that family can be the cruelest of all. I kept replaying the moment, the slap echoing in my mind. Over and over. How dare he? How dare they? I thought about everything I had put up with in this family. The endless favoritism toward Ryan. The times they ignored my feelings just to keep him happy. All of it. And now it had touched my daughter, my innocent little girl. Never again. That night, after we got home, I tucked Lily into bed, kissed her forehead, and promised her softly, "Mommy's going to fix this." She looked at me, eyes still full of confusion, and nodded like she was trying to believe me. I stepped out into the hallway, staring into the darkness of my silent house. There was no way I would let them walk away from this. Not this time. They had laughed when she cried. They wouldn't be laughing for long. After that day, I could barely sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ryan's hand striking Lily's face. Her tears, my parents' laughter, it haunted me. No matter how many times I tried to calm myself, the rage just kept coming back, crashing over me like a storm tide. I'd held my tongue for years, trying to keep peace in a family that never valued me. But this was different. Lily was just a child. My child. I kept seeing her bruised cheek when I sent her off to school Monday morning. It hurt more than any wound I had ever felt in my life. When my husband suggested I let it go, that it was just one moment, that maybe Ryan didn't mean it, I felt something inside me snap. Let it go? After seeing my daughter get slapped for being happy? For being a child? No, I would not let this go. I had to protect Lily, even if that meant tearing my family apart. So I started paying attention and asking quiet questions, the way I always had to growing up. Ryan had always been the golden boy after all. My parents protected him, no matter what mistakes he made. And he made a lot. He was reckless, entitled, always bragging about business deals, about how successful he was, but never offering any proof. I had a gut feeling he was hiding something, and this time, I refused to look away. That same week, I reached out to my old college friend Sarah, who'd become a corporate lawyer. I asked if she knew how to find out if someone was in financial trouble. Sarah didn't even hesitate. She was outraged after hearing what Ryan did to Lily. 2 days later, she called me back. Her voice was tight, serious. "Emily," she said, "your brother is in more trouble than you know." My hands went cold. What kind of trouble? Sarah explained that Ryan had taken out massive business loans in our father's name. My father had co-signed some of them, and now Ryan was defaulting. If word got out, not only would Ryan go bankrupt, but my parents could lose everything. Their house, their retirement, their entire reputation. I swallowed hard, stunned. The same parents who had laughed while my daughter was slapped were protecting a grown man who was about to ruin them. A slow, dark determination took hold of me. If they could excuse violence against my daughter to protect Ryan, then they deserved to feel the consequences of defending him. But I knew I had to be careful. One wrong move, and they'd circle the wagons again, blaming me for tearing the family apart instead of facing the truth. I needed proof. Solid proof. So I waited and I watched. I played nice on the phone, calling my mother and pretending everything was fine. That way they wouldn't suspect me. Inside, I was boiling with disgust, but I kept my voice light, even cheerful. The next Sunday, Ryan invited me to his house for lunch. Maybe he thought I had forgotten about Lily already. Maybe he thought I was as spineless as I used to be. I accepted the invitation. That afternoon, sitting in his living room, I listened as Ryan bragged about how he'd put that noisy little brat in her place. His words made me grip my coffee cup so tightly I thought it would shatter. Then he laughed and told a friend on speakerphone, "She'll get over it. Kids are tough. Besides, somebody had to teach her respect." My hands started shaking. I realized I could record this. I reached into my purse and quietly hit record on my phone. Ryan, oblivious, kept talking, bragging, cursing, even admitting how he had borrowed money using our father's name because the old man would never turn me in. He had no idea I was gathering every word. When I left that day, my phone felt heavy in my hand. But my heart felt lighter. For the first time in a long time, I had power. He might have slapped my daughter, but now I had something far stronger than his hand: the truth. And I was going to use it. I stood by my car, looking back at Ryan's house with a cold, controlled fire burning in my chest. They had chosen to laugh at my daughter's pain. They would soon learn what it felt like to cry. My name is Emily, and for the first time in my life, I felt a dangerous kind of calm. I had the recording. Ryan's disgusting words, his bragging, his cruelty, his reckless confession about the loans. That was my weapon. No more protecting them. No more looking away. When I played that recording back later that night, I knew exactly what I had to do. It wasn't enough to simply confront him. If I went straight to Ryan, he'd twist the story, gaslight me, just like he'd always done when we were kids. My parents would leap to his defense, dismiss me, shame me, or even accuse me of being dramatic. I couldn't risk that. So I took my time, plotting carefully. I reached out to Sarah again. She listened to the recording and whistled. "Emily," she told me, "this is explosive. You could ruin him with this." I nodded, steady. That's exactly what I planned to do. Sarah helped me craft a plan. We would quietly alert Ryan's business partners. the ones whose investments he depended on. If they learned he was defaulting, that he had been bragging about scamming them and forging signatures, they would cut him off. That alone would start a chain reaction of financial collapse. Part of me trembled with guilt. But then I remembered Lily's tears, her tiny hand pressed to her bruised cheek, and the guilt burned away. He did this, not me. When I sent the email, attaching the edited audio, my heart hammered so hard I thought it might break my ribs. I wrote no explanation, just let the recording speak for itself. Within hours, there was chaos. Ryan's biggest partner pulled out of a deal. I knew because Ryan started calling me again and again, leaving voicemails dripping with rage. "Emily, what the hell did you do? Pick up the phone. You think you can ruin me? You think you're so smart?" I turned off my phone. I wasn't ready to face him yet. There was still more work to do. Next, I needed to make sure the rest of the family couldn't spin this against me. I gathered evidence of the loans Ryan had taken in my father's name, documents Sarah had helped me get through public records. Then I sent copies along with the audio to my parents. It was a risk, I knew. But I wanted them to hear their golden boy bragging about slapping my daughter. I wanted them to know exactly what he was, a violent, selfish, reckless man. That evening, my parents called. Their voices were small, panicked. My mother was practically crying. "Emily, how could you do this to your brother?" How could I? The question made me laugh, bitter, exhausted. "You mean," I replied, my voice steady, "how could he do that to my daughter?" Silence. My father tried to bluster through it, talking about family unity and keeping problems in the family. But I wouldn't let him. "You laughed when Lily was hit," I reminded him. "You covered up for him all your lives. Not this time." They begged me to stop, said they'd lose their friends, their standing in the community, everything they'd built. I felt nothing for them. Nothing. That was the most terrifying part of all. How numb I had become to their fear. I told them flatly, "If you want to fix this, tell the truth. Otherwise, watch everything burn." Then I hung up. Later that night, I went to check on Lily while she slept. She looked so peaceful, curled up with her stuffed bunny. I brushed a hair away from her forehead, feeling my heart clench. This was all for her. Every ounce of my anger, every cold, sharp move, for her. So that she would never have to bow her head in shame to men like Ryan. I wouldn't let this family break her the way they tried to break me. They had chosen to defend Ryan, to laugh while my daughter cried. Now they could watch him fall. The world felt different after I sent those recordings and documents out. A heavy, raw stillness settled over me, like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the rocks to give way. I didn't have to wait long. The messages started pouring in. Ryan's business partners were furious. His phone was blowing up and he was spiraling fast. Then the family group chat exploded. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all demanding to know if what I sent was real. Some defended Ryan, calling me heartless. Others were shocked, disgusted by what he'd said about Lily and horrified at the fraud. Every ping of a new message reminded me how deep this had cut. It wasn't just a scandal. It was an earthquake, shaking the foundations of the family. Then Ryan showed up at my door. I opened it to see him standing there, wild-eyed, reeking of sweat and whiskey. "You?" he hissed, jabbing a finger at me. "You think you're so clever?" I didn't flinch. I'd practiced this moment 100 times in my head. "Go home, Ryan," I said, cold and calm. He lunged forward, face twisted. "You ruined everything. I could lose everything because of you." A small, savage part of me wanted to laugh. Everything? He had been willing to crush my daughter's spirit for his own pride, and now he was worried about losing a few investors? I stepped closer, holding my ground. "You slapped my child. You bragged about it. And you dragged Dad into your shady deals. I will not apologize for protecting Lily." His expression turned to pure hate. "I'll destroy you for this," he spat. "You think you've won? I'll sue you for defamation. I'll take everything you have. I met his glare. Steady. Try it, I told him. I have the truth on my side. You only have lies. He was shaking with rage. For a second, I almost saw fear behind his eyes. Then he turned and stormed away, slamming the gate so hard it rattled the hinges. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My hands were trembling, but I refused to back down. The next day, I started to see the cracks in my parents. Mom called me, voice small and broken. "Emily," she whispered, "you've torn this family apart." That phrase made me go cold all over. Torn this family apart? No, I told her. Ryan did that, and you let him. She started crying, mumbling about the neighbors, about their church, about their reputation. The same old song. Never about Lily, never about the damage to an innocent child. Only themselves. I felt a pit of grief open in my chest. I realized they would never change. They would never put Lily first. They had chosen Ryan's comfort over my daughter's safety, just like they'd chosen it over mine, all those years ago. My husband tried once more to calm the storm. "Maybe you can talk to them, Emily," he pleaded. "Maybe if you explain—" I cut him off. "There is nothing to explain." Ryan laid his hands on Lily and they laughed. That is the end of it. For the first time, he didn't argue. He just nodded, looking sad but resigned. The phone rang again later that night. Ryan, this time. I let it go to voicemail. His voice was cold, venomous. "You'll pay for this," he snarled. "I swear, Emily, you'll regret it." I stared at my phone, breathing slowly. Fear tried to creep in, but I forced it away. He had threatened me. That was fine, because I was ready. Ready to protect my daughter. Ready to go to war if I had to. They had all chosen the wrong woman to break. The fallout was even worse than I imagined. Ryan's life began unraveling almost overnight. His partners backed out of every deal, terrified of the fraud and the recording I'd leaked. His reputation was shattered. No one trusted him. Then came the final blow. Ryan's wife filed for divorce. She had seen the video of Lily crying, heard the recording of Ryan bragging about hitting a child. That was enough for her to pack up her kids and run. I won't lie. When I heard she left him, a small part of me felt sorry for her. She had married a monster, blinded by the same lies I'd grown up with. But sympathy was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. My parents, meanwhile, were in a free fall of their own. Their friends were whispering behind their backs, their neighbors refusing to look them in the eye. Their perfect social bubble had burst. And then, exactly as I had predicted, they came to me. It was a Tuesday evening, after I'd put Lily to bed. I heard a knock on the door, quiet, hesitant. When I opened it, there they stood. My mother with red-rimmed eyes, my father stiff and defeated. "Emily," my mother started, her voice cracking. "Please, you have to help us." I stepped aside just enough to let them in. Part of me still had a daughter's instinct to show respect, but the rest of me felt like a stranger in my own home. We sat at the kitchen table. They didn't even try to pretend they'd come for anything other than their own survival. My father sighed heavily. "Ryan is destroying us," he said. "If he defaults on those loans, the bank will take our house. We could lose everything." My mother reached for my hand. I pulled it away. "Please," she whispered. "We know he was wrong. But he's still your brother. We can't let him go to jail." I nearly laughed. "You didn't care if Lily was hurt," I reminded them, voice sharper than I intended. You laughed while she cried." They flinched. "Good." My father tried to regain control, raising his voice. "Emily, you're tearing this family apart." I shook my head. "Ryan did that. You let him do it." Silence settled between us like poison. Finally, my mother broke down, crying so hard she could barely breathe. "We raised you to be good, Emily," she sobbed. "Where is your compassion?" I stood up, unwilling to be guilt-tripped again. My compassion is for my daughter, I told them. You failed me growing up, and you failed her now. I will not fail her. They stared at me, shocked, as if they'd never seen me before. Maybe they hadn't. Maybe for the first time they were seeing the woman I'd become, not the scared, quiet daughter who used to keep the peace. My father tried one last time. If you don't help us, he warned, you are no longer our daughter. The words should have crushed me. Instead, I felt lighter. Then I'm no longer your daughter, I said calmly. Their faces crumbled. They left in silence, broken, and I closed the door behind them, leaning against it as tears finally spilled down my cheeks. It wasn't victory. It didn't feel like triumph. It felt like standing in the ashes of everything I had once tried so hard to protect. But Lily was safe. That was what mattered. I moved her to a friend's house the next weekend, worried Ryan might try to get revenge. I'd seen the hatred in his eyes. I knew he wouldn't let this go quietly. That night, in the tiny guest room where Lily was sleeping, I sat on the floor and tried to breathe. Tried to believe I had done the right thing. I heard Lily's sleepy voice from the bed. Mommy? Yes, baby? Am I bad because I was loud? My heart shattered. I crawled over and hugged her tight. No, sweetheart, I whispered through my tears. You are perfect, and no one will ever hurt you again. She fell back asleep in my arms. I held her there, making a silent vow. No matter how ugly things got, I would protect her. They could call me heartless, they could call me a traitor, but I was a mother first, and they would learn. No one breaks a mother fighting for her child. I didn't expect Ryan to surrender quietly. That would have been too easy, too out of character. I knew he would fight back. And he did, with every ounce of venom in him. The papers came late on a rainy afternoon. A man in a cheap gray suit handed them over with a forced apologetic look. A summons. Ryan was suing me for emotional distress and defamation of character. I laughed when I saw the words on the page. Laughed so hard I nearly choked on my own breath. After everything he had done, after striking a child, bragging about it, nearly bankrupting our father, I was the one causing him emotional distress? But the laughter died quickly, because I knew this wasn't just a joke. This was Ryan trying to silence me, to bully me back into submission. It was his last power play, a desperate attempt to regain control. I refused to give him that. I called Sarah immediately. She was calm, sharp, and ready to go to war for me. Emily, she said, he's trying to intimidate you, but he has no case. You have truth on your side, and witnesses. That gave me a shred of relief. Still, the anxiety kept eating at me. I'd never been in a courtroom before, never had to stand up in front of a judge and fight for my child so publicly. The thought of Ryan smirking across from me made my skin crawl. But every time fear tried to take over, I thought of Lily's small, trembling voice asking if she was bad for being loud. That memory burned away every trace of doubt. I would walk through fire before I let Ryan scare me. In the days that followed, my parents kept trying to call. I ignored every attempt. Their loyalty to Ryan had already cost me enough. I wasn't going to let them poison my resolve. One afternoon, my husband found me pacing the kitchen, phone in hand. He looked exhausted, worry lining his face. Emily, he said softly, you don't have to do this alone. I sighed. I do, though, because no one else will fight for Lily like I will. He pulled me in, hugging me tight, and for a moment I let myself rest there. Just a moment. When I checked in on Lily that night, she was painting rainbows on a sheet of printer paper. Her cheek had healed, but the memory hadn't. I could still see it in the way she jumped at loud noises, the way she flinched if someone moved too quickly. I sat with her, holding her tiny hand, and promised her again, Mommy's going to make this right. Ryan was determined to paint me as a villain. He told anyone who would listen that I was out to ruin him, that I was bitter, jealous, unstable. Some believed him, at least at first. Others stayed silent, shocked by everything spilling out into the open. The night before our first court hearing, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake replaying every word of Ryan's threats, every time my parents made me feel small, every memory of Lily's sobs. This was bigger than Ryan. It was about breaking a lifetime of silence, about protecting my daughter from the cycle that had destroyed me for years. When dawn finally came, I felt steady. I put on my best suit, held my head high, and walked into the courthouse with Sarah by my side. Ryan was already there, wearing his most expensive suit, trying to look respectable. But I saw the wildness in his eyes, the cracks in his polished mask. He was afraid, and that gave me courage. As we waited for the judge, I looked across at him, letting every ounce of my hatred burn into him. You will not break me, I thought. You will never break me again. I didn't know how this fight would end, but I did know one thing. I was done being afraid. The courtroom felt colder than I expected. Everything about it was sterile and echoing, like it was built to swallow people whole. Still, I kept my head high as I stepped inside, refusing to look away from Ryan sitting across the aisle. He avoided my gaze, pretending to scroll through his phone. His lawyer leaned in to whisper something, and Ryan gave a stiff nod, trying to look confident. But I could see the slight tremble in his hands. That told me everything. The judge arrived and called us forward. My palms were sweating, but I squeezed Sarah's hand for a second, steadying myself. She nodded, calm, professional, absolutely unshakable. Ryan's lawyer started first, spinning a wild narrative about how I had sabotaged a respected businessman out of family revenge. They made me sound unhinged, vindictive, obsessed. It might have worked if the truth hadn't been on my side. When Sarah rose to speak, her voice was a blade. She presented the recordings, the documents, the messages Ryan had sent me threatening retaliation. Piece by piece, she laid out how he had forged our father's name, how he had bragged about slapping a child, how he had tried to silence me. The courtroom was silent. Ryan's face turned an awful shade of gray as the evidence stacked up. Sarah finished by pointing straight at him. He is not the victim here. Emily protected her child when no one else would. I could have cried from relief right then. Ryan's lawyer scrambled, trying to challenge the evidence, but it was hopeless. The recording was damning. Ryan's own words, about Lily, about the loans, rang through the room like a funeral bell. At one point, Ryan broke. He slammed a fist on the table, shouting, "This is all her fault. She turned everyone against me." The judge fixed him with a look so sharp it could have cut stone. "Control yourself, Mr. Ryan," he said firmly. Ryan went silent, breathing heavy, staring at me with pure hatred. But it didn't scare me this time. There was nothing left in me for him to crush. My parents were there, sitting behind Ryan, trying to look supportive. They wouldn't meet my eyes, probably ashamed, probably still angry that I'd refused to protect their golden boy. I let them fade from my mind. They weren't part of my world anymore. The judge asked if I had anything to say before he made a decision. I stood, took a breath, and looked right at Ryan. "You hit my daughter," I told him, voice steady. "You called her a brat. You bragged about it. You destroyed Dad's finances. You did all of this, not me. And I will never be sorry for standing up for my child." Ryan scoffed, but I didn't flinch. The judge nodded, then spoke in a slow, even tone that carried finality. "Based on the evidence, this court finds no merit to Mr. Ryan's claims. Protective orders will remain in place and no further contact is permitted." My knees nearly gave out. Sarah squeezed my arm in triumph. It was over, at least this chapter. Ryan sat there, slack-jawed, as the bailiff moved to escort him out of the room. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt free. Walking out of the courthouse, I took the deepest breath I'd had in months. Lily was safe. I was safe. No one would ever lay a hand on her again, not while I had breath left in my body. I looked up at the sky, letting the sun warm my face. This was only the beginning of healing, but it was our beginning. They say winning feels sweet, but in truth it felt more like standing alone after a storm, numb and battered. The court's decision gave me protection, but it couldn't erase the scars or fix the twisted mess my family had become. Ryan was finished. His business partners cut ties for good, and he was left facing investigations for fraud and forgery. His wife refused to reconcile, moving on with her children far away from his poisonous orbit. As for my parents, they lost everything. When Ryan defaulted, the bank claimed their house. Their retirement accounts vanished into the black hole of his debts. They ended up staying with distant relatives, too proud to call me for help, but too desperate to hide what had happened. Weeks after the final hearing, I saw them at the grocery store. They looked older, smaller somehow, worn down by disgrace. My mother tried to catch my eye, but I walked right past her. I had nothing left to give people who laughed at my daughter's pain. Lily, though, was the one who truly showed me what healing looked like. Slowly, she started laughing again without flinching. She painted more rainbows, louder and brighter, filling her room with color. Every time I heard her carefree giggle, a weight lifted off my shoulders. One evening, she climbed into my lap while I was reading on the couch. "Mommy?" "Yes, baby." "Are we safe now?" My heart clenched. I pulled her close, breathing in the warm, sweet smell of her hair. "We're safe," I promised. "No one will ever hurt you again." The old Emily, the one who tiptoed around her parents and kept the peace, was gone. In her place stood a mother who would burn the world down before letting anyone break her child. And somehow I realized that was worth every shattered piece of the family I'd left behind. A month later, my parents called. Their voices were small, defeated. They asked if they could stay with us for a while until they found a new place. Part of me almost caved. The child in me still wanted to be accepted, still wanted to be loved. But then I looked at Lily playing with her stuffed animals, her cheek finally free of bruises. I thought of the day they laughed while she cried. "No," I told them firmly. "I can't do that," my mother cried. My father tried to scold me. I ended the call. That was the last time I heard from them. Some people might think I was cruel, but I knew the truth. Protecting my daughter was not cruelty. It was the deepest love I had ever known. It took months, but eventually, Lily and I settled into a quiet, peaceful routine. No more walking on eggshells, no more forced family gatherings, just the two of us, healing, rebuilding, learning to trust the world again. One night, Lily looked at me with her big, bright eyes. "Mommy," she said softly, "I like being loud." I smiled, tears filling my eyes. "Then be as loud as you want, my love. No one will ever silence you again." In that moment, I knew I had done the right thing. Even if the world thought I'd destroyed my family, I had saved my family, me and my daughter. Ryan, my parents, all of them would have to live with their choices. I wasn't carrying their shame anymore. As Lily danced across the living room, shrieking with laughter, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. I had taught them a lesson they would never forget, and I had given my daughter the freedom to be exactly who she was, without fear. And that, I realized, was the greatest revenge of all.